All right, so number two, we want to talk about how the hips or the pelvis moves. And I will always start this out by describing the pelvis as the epicenter of movement or the epicenter of force. Where the foot is the origin of force, the hips are going to be the epicenter. It initiates at the foot, but it has to pass through the pelvis for virtually any action that we're going to go through. So I think this is a really simple way that we can introduce it to athletes in a way that they'll understand it. From there, I'll just discuss basic actions, basic planes of motion or ranges of motion, as we all know. And then this is one that I think is a little bit more unrecognized by the layperson, but really just emphasizing or illustrating how the pelvis works both in tandem and independently. So a good euphemism for the pelvis that we've all heard is thinking about it like a bowl, and if we don't have a good neutral position, we're going to dump the water to one side or the other, front or back, right? So I will just kind of build that into describing both in a bilateral sense how neutral pelvic position should look and feel, and then also the same thing in a single leg stance. But from there, I want to make sure that I'm touching on coiling of the hip. This is a really big point for me. And with the coiling, what we're thinking about is essentially being in that split stance and then just slightly rotating the trunk so that we get good internal lock on that front leg hip. So this is something that I want athletes to be familiar with and then understand the point behind it, because we're going to utilize it a lot thereafter. Lastly, I will make sure to mention the relationship both above and below for the pelvis. So with the rib cage, we know that we'll commonly see that scissoring posture where we get, dramatic anterior pelvic dump, and then we get that pulling up and opening of the rib cage. So just kind of teaching them to stack or kind of neutralize their rib cage over their pelvis, and then just understanding the relationship between the two. And then again, similarly with the foot, if we have more of a pronated base at the foot, we're going to be more inclined to kind of get that dropping of the pelvis on the opposite side. So reinforcing, kind of getting them to the lateral surface of their foot so that we can maintain more of a neutral pelvis as we're going through actions.